Welcome to What Are You Saying on Feferity Radio. My name is Freestyle. Each and every day between 6 and 9, we talk to people from different parts of the globe. We just started this week, and just to bring to our attention the way they are coping with the lockdown. And like I said, everyone has an opinion, really, about these corona and the virus and everything. I mean, we've been bombarded with lots of information, isn't it? And I'm sure most of us with small little brain have switched off long ago, and others are still in there suffering. But anyway, everyone deals with it in a very different way. What we're here on Feferity doing is to really show the human side of all of us that whatever we're going through, by sharing it, we shall all overcome. On the line here with me is Imani. So welcome to Feferity Radio.
Hi, hello, hi, and thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
My, oh my, you're welcome. I mean, it's like these days it's hard to say, how is your day been? It's like, it's very awkward to say that, isn't it? Rather
No,
than,
no, it's not really. I mean, my day, well, I have a full-on day, so I go to the living room, then to the hallway, and sometimes I might go and visit the kitchen. And, if I have time,
come
I might go into
on.
that spare room.
Come
So,
on,
yeah.
we do that all the time after work and all of that. We go into the kitchen, into our living room. We do it on a daily basis. I mean, i is that what it's come down to?
Yes, in fact, Easter. I don't know where I'm going to go for Easter. I'm planning to either go to the hallway or I might go into the, let's say, the spare room. I'm not sure. Both places are looking excellent right now. Yeah.
So
So.
basically, you've got your Easter eggs and whatever decoration ready for you.
Well, as for the Easter eggs, I mean, there was a bit of a situation with the Easter eggs because the local council, some local councils considered it as non-essential items, so they wanted it banned. But the
Really?
government decided, yeah, did you not hear about it? A
No,
few
I mean,
days ago. Yes,
I
yes.
realized when I went to
hmm
the co-op and little Sainsbury's around my
Mm.
corner, I couldn't find no chocolates apart from sweet.
Oh.
Yeah. So maybe someone got there before you.
No. It was a situation where there was a local council, I'm not quite sure which one,
Right.
and they had decided they didn't want these Easter eggs sold because they were not part of the essential items, which the government's saying, non-essential stores should shut, etc. They didn't want them sold in the supermarket.
Okay.
So, but the government decided, look, we have enough on our plates without getting embroiled in
So
an
what are
Easter
you
egg.
gonna do? What are you gonna do then? Because you've already set up where you're gonna spend your Easter. Like many
Yeah,
other people never thought of that, but I think that is a really good advice.
yeah.
But what are you gonna do about the chocolate and the egg and all of
No,
that?
they're there. They're in the shops. The government decided no, they're not going to ban it, so they're still
Okay.
being sold in the shops. Yes.
Right.
So if you've left any for me, then yes, we. If you've left any for us, then we can still get our Easter eggs. So yeah.
My goodness, I mean, you kind of brought it all to our attention that Easter is round the corner, or probably is now, and most of us could have missed it without not even knowing that it's Easter. All we know is Corona season.
Yeah, and that's so easily done. I mean, deliberately, I put out on social media today, I tweeted and I said, has the clocks gone forward yet, please? I,
Too bad.
no, because it's like, who cares what the time is? Who cares if the clocks have gone forward or back or just staying the same? Who cares? Nothing matters until 3 months' time.
Indeed. I mean,
Yeah.
I was speaking to my son yesterday, and he goes, "Oh, I don't even know what the day is today." I goes, "Never mind. I mean, all of us is really messed up right now."
hmm No, for
So
real. Do you know what?
it is, yeah.
No, do you know how I feel? I feel like house is like house arrest, and I still can't figure what I've done to be under house arrest. Yeah, and you said, you have to think, what day is it today? I feel like I need to start marking making marks on the wall so that I know, okay, a week has passed, and make another mark on the wall. You know, like they do in prison, they
Yeah.
start marking the walls. Yeah, maybe I need to start doing that so I can have some idea of my release date. Don't you think so?
Well, if only the court has decided. Looks like the court hasn't even decided yet. When is the trial?
Exactly. I'm on remand. We're all on remand.
We are reminded at the moment. So
Yeah.
to start thinking about the release day, come
Yeah.
on. Eh?
We haven't even had a trial.
No, no, no. We
Yeah.
remand, and then we're gonna be proper locked down, and then before we start getting home visit.
Yeah. Home visit.
At the moment, we're
So,
getting a yard visit and
yeah.
a balcony visit, and for some
Mhm.
people, they're getting a park visit.
Mhm. But you know what? This
Yeah.
also feels like, it just feels like, for those for your religious listeners out there, it just feels like God just got so angry with all of us. God said, right, go to your room and stay there for 3 months.
Yeah.
That's how it feels. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it is quite, it's like that, isn't it?
Mm.
I was speaking to Michael yesterday. I don't know if you were listening, and he's a very strong man in his Christian faith. And he is looking at this as God is doing it, or God is allowing it to happen. That is like, it's difficult to comprehend, isn't it?
Okay, but then did Michael explain why God is allowing it to happen? Because I read somewhere online,
Yeah.
somebody had written, may Allah keep us all safe. And I was thinking, Allah, what about the others? What about Jehovah? What about Buddha? What about all the others? Only Allah was going to keep us safe. So I guess you'll need to find out, or you need to ask Michael, why? If he feels God is doing this, why is God doing this?
Yeah. And also, which name is above all names now?
Mm-hmm.
So if you put, like, you just call Buddha, you just call the Allah, you just call Jesus, and who else? All the messiahs, and now you got
Jehovah.
Jehovah, and now you got Corona. Which name do you think is above all names right now?
Well, it seems Corona's in charge right now. So Michael may think God has done this, but I think Corona is in charge. I mean, who else has been able to lock down the world? The world, you know, basically globally, who has been able to lock us all down and put us all in our rooms?
Well, I mean, it seems as if you are coping well with it because you have so many places in your beautiful mansion to roam. And so therefore, this is not, I mean, there are people, we're not used to this thing at all. We're not used to it. It doesn't matter how we're coping. The fact is we're not used not to be told. We're not used to be left frivolously to do what, even like our parents, when we disobey, we've got time to come home, even though when we miss that time, we know the consequence. Right now, it's like, do as much as you will. You're unto your own self. It's not easy though, isn't it?
No. And you know what? It's not easy because for every household in this country, there is a complicated situation that this has brought about. Yeah. So you have to understand there are people with children with severe learning difficulties, and how are they now coping with them without the help and support of the social services and the care services that usually provide the services? Yeah,
absolutely.
We also have people who are unable to go and see their loved ones who are possibly in hospital because they're not allowed to visit. We have people, whether we like it or not, who are in prison, and they're not able to visit their loved ones in prison. Prisoners are no longer allowed to have visitors. They're not even, some of the prisons are not even allowing the phone calls that they normally get to do.
Yep.
So for every situation, if there are 60 million households or 66 million households in this country, there are probably 66 million different cases. Unfortunate situations going on. Yeah. Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
worse. Then you have to understand we also have those who are in hostels who have mental health problems, and they may have their staff at these hostels. But you try telling somebody who has mental health problems you cannot go out. So you can imagine what's going on in those places as well.
I mean, also, I think about the children. I mean, it is so difficult for them when you think about it, like being locked up, not able to go out and do the normal things that they do and do, that they will do, even though some will disagree that, most of what they're doing, is not really something that will bring some benefit to them in the long run. However,
Hmm.
just to be
Hmm.
told that you can't really do what you are supposed to do and they're out of school, it is very difficult to cope, isn't it?
Hmm. No, it is, because then you have to realise also some of these households, they probably only have one computer or maybe one laptop in the household. And it's a household that may consist of mum, dad, brother, sister, and maybe another sibling. So if they're not on their phones, there may even be uncomfortable situations as to who's going to use the PC or the laptop. And it's very, very difficult because not to even be able to go and visit their friends. And, as parents, they're going to really have to explain the severity of the situation we're in. They're just about learning about the world wars that we've had. And now they're being told about panic buying and programs on TV, which they're used to, is even changing because they're not allowed to have people in the studio or they're not allowed to do filming. So I don't watch soap operas, but from what I understand, if the soap operas are still going on, the longer we go on with these lockdowns and the social distancing, even the usual diet of soap operas people are used to, even that will change as well. And some people, they live by that. And
Yes, true.
this is why some professionals are saying that, as much as you can, you have to try and keep in contact with your loved ones, because some people are just on their own. They're just living on their own. And as you described, it's really unusual.
I mean, also, the difficult part of this is information overload. I
Mm.
mean, before when this started, they gave a symptoms of the
Mm-hmm.
experience, like how you will feel.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, they use well, you might have it, but you don't know you've got it.
Mm-hmm.
And these are very conflicting messages. And I played earlier on that the COVID-19, the virus, I mean, you can find it in everybody. We have so many different viruses anyway, you know, that purges us when we eat the wrong food or we drink the wrong drink or something like it react.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, I mean, think about gloves and mask, conflicting messages here as well. And this was
Mm-hmm.
before about the coronavirus. And then we had about the 5G and the implications to human body.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which one, for somebody who is following what the TV is saying, and from the so-called reliable sources, how can they cope when there is so many different angles on this that you don't really know which one to believe in or what to really do or what kind of precaution to take?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, for me, what I say is just the advice that's been given is just stay indoors. Go out as little as possible. Just stay away from family, friends, loved ones, because you never know who has it. Okay. And all the
But
other information, because
according
mm-hmm.
to scientists, though, maybe I could play that. I mean, so that
Mm-hmm.
people can hear. The COVID 19 The COVID 19 is a virus that you can find in every living, body. So if they go directly to look for something like that, it is all there. A lot of these
Mm-hmm.
viruses are there, lying dormant, and they understand that. That's why I think they said you might have it, but you don't know you got it. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean, I think, what I'm hearing also that we're trying to manipulate just the way we feel so that we all can have
It's a fear factor.
disagreement
No, severity, it's
how
a
we
fear factor.
conduct ourselves.
Yes, it's a
So
fear
there's a
factor. It's almost.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're trying to recalibrate the whole world, basically, and a way of how we were used to doing things. It's almost as if they're trying to reshape all of that. Some people will go as far as saying, I've spoken to a neighbour, and they kept talking about referring to New World Order. How was that going to happen? Maybe this is the start of New World Order. You know, the fact they're saying stay indoors. If you've read the book 1984, George Orwell, you will see that this is very, very similar, spookily similar to 1984. And that book was written probably way over 50, probably in the 1930s. So they spoke about, George Orwell in his book spoke about cameras watching our every move, spoke about having to change the way we speak. So certain words we're used to will then come out of our vocabulary for good. Otherwise, you could be in prison for it.
Well, it is true, because if you look at the mobile phone and text messages, that language alone, the mobile language, has changed the way all English used to be spoken and written.
But more than that as well, even certain words that people used to say, I don't know, over the years, maybe words such as, maybe homophobic words, maybe words people used to use, maybe certain words can no longer be used now. You know, you have to accept that people are self-identifying maybe as a horse chestnut tree or whatever they decide to identify as. You have to accept it. So all this was predicted in that book a while back as well. And also, going back to slightly what you said about the coronavirus and the symptoms, etc., it is information overload. For me, how I deal with it, so long as I get a news bulletin once a day, that's enough for me. And that's only because I need to know that the government hasn't said to everybody, you can all come out of self-isolation, and I'm still in isolation because I didn't get the memo. Yeah? So I listen to the bulletin just to see what the latest situation is. Now, at first, we were told the signs and symptoms of coronavirus, you only need to be concerned about persistent dry cough. Who does? Now, if I cough, I panic. I think I'm going to die. Yeah? I have to remind myself, I have to remind myself I was coughing long before coronavirus became fashionable. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, you know, something like a persistent cough, they say, is a sign. And also, breathing problems and high temperature.
Yeah.
Breathing problems and high temperature. 2 days ago, they said, in fact, the earliest sign of having this virus would be loss of smell and loss of taste.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
That's something that I was privy to just yesterday. Yesterday or 2 days ago. Yesterday, 2 days ago, I don't know. I've lost count on where we are. How many days?
These symptoms also is what you will get if you have a flu or a fever or something like that. You lose all those.
But Feferity, this is the thing. You know, it's a situation where it's almost like, for instance, if you have, before the coronavirus, people used to go to Dr. Google. So you have maybe a rash, for instance. You don't know where this rash came from. You decide to go and to consult Dr. Google, and then suddenly you realize, oh, if you have, so do you have a cough? You tick yes. Do you have blurry vision? You tick yes. You tick yes. You tick yes. So by the time you finish, your rash has gone from a rash to you only have about a week to live. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a bit like that as well, if that's what we're having to deal with. So persistent. Look, I was speaking to a dear friend of mine, and they happened to mention, you know, people that we know who have passed away. And it seems to be coronavirus. And I had to think to myself, were people not passing away before this coronavirus thing? As I said, were people not coughing or sneezing or just having a temperature before this virus? So there is that fear factor as well.
I mean, definitely. I mean, do you believe that this is an attack on the human species on the planet?
The human?
Yeah, the human species on planet, because they've attacked our breathing, they've attacked our mouth.
Who's they? Who is they?
Governments, they've all decided that this is the symptom. We need to cover our ears, our eyes, and our nose and our mouth. So to me, that is a symbolism. Is like see, know what you know, hear,
Okay,
know what you know, and
okay.
speak
So
of know. You know what I'm saying?
okay, but then freestyle. If that's the case, and if it is to be believed, why the government? It's almost like blowing a bomb in your own face. If the government has done that intentionally, and they've done a coordinated thing with all the other governments, and these are governments that usually don't even see eye to eye. So why are they all going to then decide? And these are governments who, if there is a new world order, some of these governments, such as Iran, probably wouldn't even be part of it. Yeah. So why would all these governments have this make this concerted effort to attack us? And if, as I said, if it's to be believed that some of these governments and World Health Organization advisors are also, have also succumbed to the virus, what's all that about then?
Well, it's to tell you that who is running what. I think that's what people need to really figure out now because,
But if you're
like,
running it, why put yourself in harm's way as well? Or is there a version of coronavirus which, if you are elite or royal or presidential or prime ministerial, you only get the mild version, the nice version, the one that allows you to still do video conference calls and tell the nation how you feel and how you are, that kind of version. Whereas the poorer people who are not presidential, who are not prime ministerial, who are not royal, they end up where? In the NEC in Birmingham and in the Excel Centre and in hospitals where families can't visit them and they just die. Hmm?
I
So there's
think
two different versions of this coronavirus.
it's always been like that. It's always been like that with AIDS, with the flu. You don't see ministers' children dying. You don't see president children getting affected by it. It's always like that.
Hmm.
So the focus is on us, on how we deal with it, on how we react to one another. I think this is the test because,
Okay, hold on. So
yeah,
how do we deal with it?
how do we deal with it? It's here.
Mm.
I mean, we're supposed to be indoors. So how do you deal with it? Now that we've had more information preview than before, it's like, what do you take?
Wait a minute. Information from who? From the same people who put out this virus in the first place. Where's this information coming from? Because all those people, even if somebody from Public Health England was to say they've got this virus, no doubt it will be a nice version of the virus and they're self-isolating for 7 days and they'll be fine. So who are all these people dying in the hospitals? Who are all these people dying alone at home? Who are all these people? Who are
Well,
all these Muslim people, Muslim doctors suddenly just dying like that? So they tell us, so we're listening to, if your theory is to be taken to the nth degree, they put this out and then they tell us how to deal with it.
yeah, that's right. And also,
Mm.
the thing is, I think this is all about strategies, about control, is about changing the economic structure. Because we've now, most of us are more using less cash and more electronic payment. We've been doing that for the last how many years. So I think this is a new version of it, but it's going to come with a lot of misinterpretation and chaos and fears. So by the time, because things are happening behind the scene that we don't know,
Hmm.
but it's about how much you can take. Now that, okay, you might believe that this is about the air is polluted and is whatever going on. And yet you're seeing like masks being put up. People are being, 5G is being rolled out. And they're talking about the consequences of it. And they talked about the consequences of 1G, 2G, 3G, and 4Gs.
5G.
And now
Hmm.
it's 5G, so now it's Corona.
Hmm.
And they're using something that all human beings have. Like I heard about the COVID-19 because coronavirus is not COVID-19. COVID-19 is a kind of a DNA virus that we have, most people or majority will have that you don't know about. So more or less when they do say that you might have it, but you don't know you have it, I think they're referring to something like this. Because for me, they didn't teach us, I mean, education or religiously didn't teach us about who we are. So if they had taught us about who we really are, you know, like we've all seen when we cut
Hold
our,
on a minute. Freestyle, you see what you just said about they taught us who we really are.
they're not.
Who's going to teach us? Who?
The
Who?
system,
Is that not for us to teach ourselves?
no, well, I mean,
Or
we had to do that when we are much more old enough. But when we were a child, you know, we were scientists, we were engineers, we were spiritualists, we were architect, whatever you want to call it, because the constructions that happened from the womb, that was nobody's business but the individual who was responsible there, right? And everybody, doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't really matter if you have money, if you're rich, you're poor, whatever. Everybody went through that process to a point where we did that, to a point when we start walking. To me, this is what I'm thinking, that's where we lost ourselves, right? And people are manipulating, you know, us to think otherwise. So when we are all walking with our feet, like we were told, I'm saying everybody, our parents took us to either church, to school, to societies, to all these different places. I mean, we were doing that. We were teaching ourselves, we are building up ourselves, we understand about our systems because it's already there. Now that we went to school, we were taught differently from what we supposed to be continuously educating or continuing that process of building, nurturing, you know what I mean? And I think that's where we lost control. And here we are, you know, with all the education, like promised to us to say, well, if we achieve this, if we learn what we've been taught, if we're obedient to, we'll be successful. And time and time and time again, lots and millions of people have been educated to the highest form of, PhD, and probably never had a job to fulfill in that, you know what I mean? So we all have disappointment within the system that is set up to change the way we are and what we're thinking. They've set us up, in fact, long ago, about even in the Bible, because majority of human beings can go back to religious time. And if you go back to the Bible, it was about a man and a woman, you know, Adam and Eve, make us feel that, well, even up to today, most people believe that I can't trust a woman. Even I had a pastor saying women should be subordinate. So all of this psychological or subconscious way that we behave and we act is coming from that time long ago.
It depends where you are, because there are some cultures where they put the woman as the figureheads of the family.
Yeah,
So
but you will find that that culture is not within the system, though. You will find that that culture that does that, no, you will find out that culture, any culture that does that, it will be outside of the system. So the system will not provide the necessarily means and provision that you need.
Oh, so you're
We've
referring
seen
to
that.
the Western system. That's what you're referring to,
That's
yeah?
what we are all going through at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I was saying to somebody who was talking about, oh, Africa, and I goes, no, it's the same curricula that we all were
Wait.
taught.
Oh, Africa, what? Oh, Africa, what was this person saying? Oh, Africa, what? What were
about
they saying?
we didn't experience, we're different, like we didn't experience slavery and all of that. I'm thinking no, because the same curriculum, that you were taught in the 70s here in England was the same curriculum in places in Africa. It's no different. The same biology, the same. It's just the context were different because of the different, places that are representing the different countries. But it's just the same situation. So we've all come through that. But what I'm saying is, if you find that people who challenges the system, whether it be an educationist, whether it be a priest, they're always left outside of that system. You understand? Yeah. So you're not meant to show the hand of the one that really gives you the knowledge, for example. But
You don't bite the hand that feeds you, sort of saying. Yeah.
yeah. So that's the condition that we're in. So at this moment, we're reacting to a continuous program that's been taking place for a long, long time.
Wait a minute, Frisa, when you say we are reacting to a continuous program that's been going on for a long, long time, what are we reacting to? What program? And who put those programs there?
Well,
And if that's the case, why? Go on.
Yeah, go on. If that's the case.
No, if that's the case, and if those who have eyes to see, yeah, why are we then sitting back and just allowing this dynamics to happen? If we know who is doing the deed, why are we letting that happen?
All right.
That's the question.
Yeah. Okay. Say like you're in a family of 10, yeah, siblings, right? You got your parents, and your parent might say, okay, I want you all to, study and become whatever, right? And that is set. And then one of you might decide to say, well, I'm not doing it. How do you think the parent is going to react in terms of like if there is anything that you will benefit from in that family? How you think they're going to react towards you?
Not good.
Right. So it is the same. So within families, you will have people that agree to the parents, their ideas, their philosophy, and you will have children that rebel. Just like some of us, our parents were very strong members of the church. They serve the highest position, and some of us, will find out that some people rebel. So it is like that. So the benefit.
We've always rebelled. We've always protested as people. Throughout the years, we've always, as far back as the Bible, we've always protested, and even bringing it into the family examples you've just given. There are those who will protest against the family and succeed in their protestations. For instance, classical recent example, Harry and Meghan. They decided to protest against wanting to be part of the firm and wanted to do their own thing. There was a lot of upheaval, a lot of upset, but in the end, that's what they chose. So sometimes in regular families, you may decide you want to go against mum and dad or mum or whatever. And you may actually be successful enough to make them see your reasons for wanting to protest. You may make them realize that you are successful in what you set out to achieve. So it's not always the case because the parents won't be happy, you cannot move forward with whatever it is you're not happy about.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and it's the same here on the governmental.
It's the same because you have scientists. You have scientists who've now given us an insight into because science. I mean, scientists are divided as well, just like the church is divided. Education.
Yeah.
I mean, academics are divided. Everybody's divided. In all the educations that we received and how we interpret it. So you have scientists who are talking about viruses. I mean, I've talked about the swine flu not being, it was all a covered, program. We've talked about the Spanish flu. These are all attack on it, even racist to even say Spanish flu.
But you know what, Freestyle, there's even those scientists and experts who are divided in even how this approach is being taken. There are those who feel we shouldn't be. Do you remember in the beginning they were saying herd immunity? In other words, come on, everybody get a piece of this coronavirus and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
So long as everybody gets it, because if you get it, it might leave your system and you'll be fine. Herd immunity. Then they decided to keep the herd in the shed, in our houses, in the stables. You understand?
Yeah.
And they're even divided about how the testing and who should get tested and when. They even divided about that. They were adamant, forget divided, they were adamant, keep the schools open because children, there was something about children, they don't get it. But yesterday you hear what? A 13-year-old has supposedly died from the coronavirus. Yeah?
Yeah.
So all that division that's going on is causing what you asked at the top of the program, which was all that information overload. What do you believe when even the scientists and the professionals and the experts themselves are divided?
Well, exactly. So it is difficult. I mean, I recognize that the way people will react towards these informations that are coming in will be different from person to person. And it is very difficult also to tell somebody how to react, I mean, in this situation. So I think
Yeah.
it's like a spell. I look at it like a spell because, even though, I mean, now you have people that say conspiracy. So,
Yeah.
and if it's a conspiracy,
Yeah.
because it doesn't mean there is no level of truth or substance of truth there,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and because I was listening on BBC Radio at some point a few weeks ago, where a medical expert was suggesting that everybody, it would be good if everybody behaves as if they got corona.
How do you do that?
Right,
Die?
exactly.
Roll over and die? Or what? Or just
Well,
cough all the time? Or
yeah.
just have breathing problems all the time? What? How do you do that? When it differs from person to person. And
So that
everybody
I
must
think
behave as if they have it.
yeah,
And if
the
you have
idea
it,
is
don't show symptoms.
well, the idea is if we all wash our hands and our feet and our face and our whatever, then that is a sign that we are doing the right thing for Corona. I
Now,
think that's
what
what
they're
she's
saying
saying.
is all those nasty people that never used to wash their hands,
Uh-uh.
they used to hold the bars on the buses and the tubes and all that, and then as soon as they come out, they're buying food, eating it with the same dirty hands that they've just been touching all those items with. Yeah, they are the same people that they're referring to, not the ones who were particular about hygiene, but what they're saying is, all you nasty people, you need to start stepping up on your hygiene routine. That's what it is. Because how do you tell somebody you need to behave
Who
as...
is saying that? Who is actually saying that?
So, no, you said some of these experts are
Yeah.
saying that we all need to behave as if we have corona. And you went on to describe what they're saying. In other words, step up your hygiene, wash your hands, wash your face, wash your feet, wash your neighbor's hands, feet, and everything. Yeah. What I'm saying is, then what do you tell the person that's been doing all of that all along? Huh? What do you tell the person that's always been particular? What do you tell the OCD people that all they can do is wash their hands anyway, 10, 15, 20 times a day? What do you tell them? That doesn't make sense.
I mean,
That's just...
also, I mean,
hmm
when everything is subside,
hmm
and peace is, restored,
and it will.
yeah, even though it's quite
hmm
peaceful, really, but you know what I
hmm
mean, right?
Yeah.
Our behaviors is it sudden that our behavior is going to change where we continue washing our bodies as often as we come in?
Freestyle. Oh, I would like to quickly say no, even though they say something like this is unprecedented. But when you look back through history, including the Spanish flu, it's unprecedented for us, our generations, and whichever that generation may be. Yeah. But when you go throughout history, as humans, we have had unprecedented situations. Now, for me, I have to go by. I can only answer that by saying, I doubt it, because we seem to have short-term memory syndrome. And I'm only going by that because sometimes we have, let me think now. Let's use Caroline Flack as an example. Yeah?
Okay.
Caroline Flack,
Mm-hmm.
some program called Love Island, and others as well. Very prominent celebrity figure, papers always digging up about her personal and love life, etc. Suddenly she commits suicide, yeah?
Yeah.
And the newspapers, social media was awash with be nice, hashtag be nice, be kind, because you never know what a person is going through behind their smiley faces or their exterior of having it all. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was on all this, be kind, be kind. Yeah? Weeks later, they're moving on to attack somebody else on social media. So I just feel that, we have a tendency to forget quite quickly. We forget pain. We forget where we were. Yesterday I was speaking to somebody and I said, you know what? I think we just need to enjoy all this, every moment of it, because we're going to be looking back and even not believe we actually went through something like this. The other day I was outside, a neighbor came past. A neighbor I just generally more or less just acknowledge, like say hi, just about. And he actually stopped
Mm.
2 meters, safe distance, stopped, put his shopping bags down and looked at me and shook his head. We didn't have to exchange words, but we did. Shook his head. He said, and I knew what he was thinking, and I knew what he was thinking.
Yeah.
And he said, "This is like a horror movie." I said, "I know." He said, "I've just come from town and there's hardly anybody in Brixton." I said, "I know."
Yeah.
I said, "Can you hear any traffic?" And then we started talking about certain horror movies like 28 Days Later,
Wow.
Outbreak, 2012, all those kinds of dystopia movies,
Yeah.
So for me, this is as whichever side whichever way you want to look at it. To me, this is an amazingly fascinating time of our lives because this is our equivalent of World War One, of World War Two.
Without the bombs, I mean,
Without the bombs,
now
but
is a
instead,
biological.
that's right, without the bombs
I
and
mean,
without the sirens.
I mean, the reason I refer to that, after all this, I mean, peace is restored. Do you think if we can go back to our normal ways? One, for example, you mentioned there, which is a 2 meters distance keeping. Do you think it will just be simple for us to be coming closer to one another again?
That's down to the individual because some people are naturally within themselves touchy-feely people and they just like to hug, kiss and or shake hands and all of that sort of thing. We may actually create a new way of greeting, for instance. I mean, come on. Many of us have been fist bumping for a long time, so maybe we knew something others didn't know, yeah? So it's down to the individual, really. Going back to people have a tendency to forget, and some people are just touchy-feely and they like to show displays of affection. So unless the government or governments of this world steps in and say, right, everything's going back to normal, but you know what? No more handshaking, hugging, and the 2 meter distance, 2 meter distance, that's going to be in place. Now, they did actually say something similar a few days back when they said what they're trying to do is bring in the testing kits so that slowly but surely, because what they said was this may go on. This was the lady from the Public Health England. What she was saying was this situation may go beyond June. It may go into 6 months as opposed to 3 months. And she quantified it by saying, we're bringing out the testing kits. So more and more people will be able to be tested so they can go back safely to work. And they want us to have some sort of corona-free passport, so you can at least show why you're allowed to be outside at certain hours, etc., because you're corona-free. But what they said was, so it's just going to be done gradually. So not to say we're all going to be stuck in our homes for 6 months, but it's going to be gradually, so they can gradually get the economy back to where it needs to be. So unless the government says, right, everything's back to normal, but you still have to adhere to the 2-meter rule or whatever. If they say we're going to have to do it, but otherwise it's down to the individual how they wish to, deal with one another, basically. Because what you have to realize as well, Freestyle, is we may decide not touching another human being again like that, unless it's your family or your loved ones. But then how do you know your loved ones don't have some sort of virus? And then what if you meet somebody new? What are you going to do? Just foot bump them? Do you see what I'm saying? You may meet somebody after all of this.
Before we used to say, especially in relationship, that we don't want somebody with baggage.
Yeah.
Now we're trying to behave that none of us has got baggage. You understand what I'm trying to say? Because
Baggage,
if this COVID-19, it's something that is in our genes, that is there, because we don't know about these scientific codes that they've given to these different parts of the body, right? And if that's the case, and they've already suggested that you might have it, but you don't know you got it, right? And then who is to say that they know something like you said we don't know? And basically like, it's like somebody saying, have you ever had an headache before? The answer is going to be yes. Oh, well, that means you had corona. I mean,
Okay,
that would be
but
so
then
simple, isn't it?
Okay, but then, when they said, oh, people have to start behaving like they have the coronavirus, it's like saying you have to behave like you've had you've had migraines. If you've never had migraines, how are you supposed to behave? If you've never had a seizure, how are you supposed to behave like you've had a seizure? Or you may have had the coronavirus, whether you wash your hands and feet and face them or not, but you didn't know. So how are you supposed to behave? I know. What they're saying is you've got to be hygienically aware. But for me, for those people who are hygienically aware, that's just rhetoric.
I mean, tell me about jobs. This is really about an impact on everyone, really. I
Mhm.
mean, people are slowly losing their jobs, and
Mhm.
majority of people who work in the building site, like myself, as a self-employed, no chance.
Mhm.
How do you think it's going to pan out in the next couple of months if we're in this situation?
How do I think? It's panning out already. How it's already panning out.
Economic situations, like, because I'm looking
It's
at
nosediving.
predictions
What?
of
Mhm.
poverty and economic distress.
Well, you see, you touched upon that. An expert on one of these radio stations said the fallout of the economic state of this country is probably end up killing more people than the virus itself. The conditions that we're going to be faced with, poverty. If you thought it was bad when people had no money and people were dying in their homes because they had no money, they've been sanctioned and from the job centre or the DWP, whatever it is. This expert felt that it's going to be worse because even yesterday we were hearing that there's a lot of charities which are there to aid and assist people in need. They're
Right.
buckling. They're now in need. They're buckling. They already cannot cope.
It's a
So
big
it's
one, isn't it?
happening already. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
happening already. Yeah.
Well, we got about 3 minutes to go before the top of the hour. What would be your advice, especially for women with children? And like you mentioned earlier on at the top of the show, that different families, I mean, all homes in the country will have different issues to face.
Hmm.
What would be your advice to people and how you coping? Because you're using the space in your houses to roam around and spend your day. I mean, what would be your advice to people in terms of
You
how they
know,
should cope with this?
it's difficult because it depends on the emotional and mental stability of each individual person, each individual member of that household. So for me to have just a general advice would be difficult. But if I was really pushed, I would, I just have to say, I just have to use a well-known phrase which is used in Nigeria. It's well known to be used in Nigeria. And it said, no condition is ever permanent. So that's the advice I would give to each household. Just hang in there. It will soon pass. Nothing is ever that permanent. Whether it's good or whether it's bad, it will pass. But for those mothers there with the children, trying to keep the children occupied, trying to keep the children happy, would be, I would say, try and be creative. Try and be creative with your day. Maybe pretend to do, depending on the ages of the children, if you have very young children, maybe pretend to do shopping. Take things out of your cupboards and pretend to have a supermarket and give them money and they can buy and then someone else can play the game of the checkout person, for instance, and at the same time they're learning. So again, it depends on the ages of the children. It depends on the emotional well-being of all the individuals as well. It's hard. It's really, really difficult. But all I can say is my advice is just hang in there and try and be a little bit more creative and try and be a little bit more patient and understanding, because if anything, we're hoping to come out of this much better than how we went into this situation. And you know what, and it's a time to stop, to be more reflective, to be more understanding, because there's no rush. Whereas everybody's rushing around because of my job, because I'm busy, and your children will ask you something, say, oh, go away, I'm busy. No, this is the time to just stop, be patient, really look at your child's face. Children, really look at your parents' face.
That's very
Get to
good.
know them.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. No, I mean, thank you very much. That I stop, listen, and think and get to look at each other's
Mhm.
face. That is a
Yeah.
very, very good one for everyone to take, really. Thank you very
Mhm.
much, Amani. And, hope you spend your Easter beautifully.
I will. I just
Okay.
can't decide which room to spend it in.
At least you got one to decide on.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And look after yourself and all the family.
I will do. And you too, look after yourself. You're doing a fabulous job. You're looking after your listeners as well. So all of you listeners out there, just take care of yourselves, take care of one another. And even if you're self-isolating, literally by yourself, there's always the phone. There's always the internet as well. You can Skype.
Thank you very much, Imani.
Thank you. You
Thank
take
you.
care.
Bye bye.